After nearly 2 years of lawsuits, leaked text messages, dueling press statements, and nonstop online speculation, the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has officially reached its end. A new ruling and a quietly published settlement have left fans stunned, legal experts split, and a lot of people asking the same question. Is this really the end of one of Hollywood's most explosive legal disputes? Tonight, we're breaking down the entire saga, from the set of It Ends With Us to the courtroom, and exactly what the June 2026 update means for both sides. Before we get into it, subscribe for weekly deep dives into Hollywood controversies, celebrity lawsuits, and the stories mainstream coverage tends to oversimplify. And if you've been following this case since 2024, drop your take in the comments, because this one is far from a typical celebrity feud. Blake Lively is one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading women, married to Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds, and known for roles in Gossip Girl and A Simple Favor. Justin Baldoni, known for Jane the Virgin, had spent years building a reputation as a director interested in stories about trauma and emotional healing. In 2024, the two came together for It Ends With Us, a Sony-distributed adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel about domestic abuse, with Baldoni directing and co-starring opposite Lively. Expectations were high. The book had a massive fan base, and early buzz suggested the film could be one of the year's biggest romantic dramas. But behind the scenes, tension was reportedly building between the film's two leads, tension that wouldn't become public until months later. But what looked like a normal Hollywood production would soon become something much bigger. Once the film was released, online chatter started almost immediately. Fans noticed Lively and Baldoni weren't doing press together, and that the usual promotional warmth between co-stars seemed to be missing entirely. Social media users began dissecting old interviews and red carpet clips, pointing to what looked like visible distance between the two stars. Entertainment outlets picked up on the silence, and speculation grew that something had gone wrong during filming, though at that point, no one had any concrete details. At first, many people brushed it off as just another Hollywood rumor. Then things escalated fast. In December 2024, the New York Times reported that Lively had filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department alleging misconduct by Baldoni during production. According to her later civil complaint filed in New York federal court, Lively alleged Baldoni made sexual comments toward women on set, discussed his personal sex life, including a self-described past struggle with pornography, and improvised physical intimacy that hadn't been agreed upon in advance. She also alleged that after she raised these concerns, Baldoni and his production company, Wayfarer Studios, orchestrated a retaliatory campaign intended to damage her public image. Baldoni denied all of it. In court filings, his side argued the behavior in question amounted to nothing more than awkward comments and miscommunication, and that some of the conversations were relevant given the film's adult themes around abuse and intimacy. It's important to stress, these were allegations on both sides, not findings of fact, and as the case moved through the courts, several of them would be narrowed or dismissed entirely. And this was only the beginning. Baldoni didn't just deny the claims, he went on the offensive. In January 2025, he countersued Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, alleging defamation and extortion. His lawsuit claimed the couple tried to damage his reputation and accused Lively of using her complaints as leverage to gain creative control over the film. Baldoni also filed a separate $250 million libel suit against the New York Times, arguing its reporting on the alleged smear campaign was inaccurate and unfairly damaging. The Times stood by its reporting, describing it as carefully and responsibly done. For months, both camps traded statements through their attorneys, each insisting the other side was the one distorting the truth. The conflict had now moved far beyond social media. It was a full-blown legal war. Over the following year, the case ballooned. Court filings brought in text messages between Lively and friends like Taylor Swift, internal communications involving Reynolds' representatives, and testimony from cast and crew members, including co-star Jenny Slate. Both sides accused each other of bad faith litigation tactics. At one point, Lively's attorneys alleged the defense team used auto-deleting messaging apps to destroy evidence before the lawsuit was even filed. In a separate but related thread, a crisis PR consultant who'd worked with Baldoni's team was dragged into a defamation dispute of his own. His attempt to get out of the case was rejected by the court in early 2026, allowing that piece of the legal puzzle to keep moving forward as well. Then came a development almost nobody expected. As the legal filings piled up, so did the public commentary. TikTok and YouTube became flooded with deep dive breakdowns, timeline videos, and reaction content. Celebrities weighed in indirectly through social media gestures, and fan communities split hard into two camps, Team Blake and Team Justin, each combing through every new filing for ammunition. Legal commentators got pulled into the spectacle too, with some accusing both legal teams of trying the case in the press as much as in the courtroom. As public opinion became more divided than ever, the courtroom remained the only place where real answers could come from. At this point in the story, before the ruling started coming down, whose version did you find more convincing? Let us know in the comments, because the next part of this story changed the entire conversation. In June 2025, U.S. District Judge Louis J. Lyman dismissed Baldoni's defamation and extortion countersuit against Lively and Reynolds, along with his libel suit against the New York Times. The ruling didn't weigh in on whether Baldoni's underlying claims had merit. It found that Lively's sexual harassment allegations were legally protected and couldn't be the basis of a defamation suit against her. That was a significant blow to Baldoni's side, but the case took another major turn in April 2026, when Judge Lyman dismissed 10 of the 13 claims in Lively's own lawsuit, including her core sexual harassment allegation against Baldoni personally. The dismissal largely came down to a legal technicality. Lively was considered an independent contractor rather than an employee, and the conduct she alleged occurred outside California, where the relevant protections applied. That left Lively with just 3 claims still standing: retaliation, aiding and abetting retaliation, and breach of contract. And notably, none of them were against Baldoni as an individual anymore. They were directed at his production company, Wayfarer Studios, and an affiliated PR firm. And that's what set the stage for the June update. With trial set to begin May 18, 2026, both sides appeared headed for a courtroom showdown nearly a year and a half in the making. Then, just 2 weeks before jury selection, Lively withdrew her remaining claims, and the parties announced a settlement, avoiding trial entirely. In a joint statement, both sides acknowledged that production on the film had presented challenges and that the concerns Lively raised deserved to be heard. Financial terms were not disclosed, and notably, Lively did not receive a direct monetary payout from Wayfarer in the settlement itself. But the story didn't end there. As part of the deal, Baldoni's side waived its right to appeal the dismissal of his own countersuit, which mattered because Lively's legal team had also been pursuing damages under a 2023 California law known as the Protecting Survivors from Weaponized Defamation Lawsuits Act, designed to penalize retaliatory defamation suits against harassment or abuse claimants. On June 12, 2026, Judge Lyman ruled on that final piece. Lively could recover her legal fees from Wayfarer under that law, but she was not entitled to the additional damages her team had sought. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, framed it as a clear loss for Lively's broader legal strategy, while Lively's team pointed to the ruling as proof that laws protecting survivors from retaliatory lawsuits can actually work. A few days later, Friedman went public on a national talk show and published the full settlement agreement, saying he believed the case was finally truly over for both sides, though he acknowledged a few collateral legal matters still needed to be wrapped up. So, does this strengthen one side over the other? Both camps are claiming a version of victory. Baldoni's team is emphasizing that Lively walked away without a cash settlement and lost most of her original claims. Lively's team is emphasizing that a court formally found her concerns deserved to be heard and awarded her legal fees under a law meant to protect people in her position. Legal observers have noted that, financially, Lively's side reportedly spent tens of millions of dollars pursuing the case, and didn't recoup all of it. Even with the core case settled, a few loose ends remain. Lively had been seeking punitive and triple damages tied to Baldoni's dismissed countersuit, and some procedural matters connected to that are still working through the courts. For Baldoni, the professional fallout has already been significant. His production company and reputation took a public hit regardless of the legal outcome. For Lively, questions remain about how this affects her standing in the industry going forward, especially given the scale of the legal costs involved. More broadly, legal analysts are watching this case as a real-world test of California's anti-retaliation law and how far it can actually go in protecting people who speak up about workplace misconduct. The full picture may still take months to settle completely, but the major chapters of this story have officially closed. To recap, what started as alleged on-set tension during a single film production turned into one of the most closely watched legal battles in recent Hollywood history, with dueling lawsuits, a $400 million countersuit, a libel suit against the New York Times, and ultimately a settlement that left both sides claiming a version of vindication. The biggest unanswered question? Whether either side truly won, or whether financially and reputationally, everyone involved simply lost less than they could have. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe. We'll keep covering any new developments as the remaining collateral issues play out. And tell us in the comments, do you think this case is truly over, or is there still one more twist coming?